All right, today we're going to break down one of the most incredible startup stories I've seen all year. We're talking about a company that went from just a side project to a huge exit in less than 12 months. So let's get right into how they pulled it off. So let's just start with a number: $80 million. That was the initial price tag on the acquisition from the web development giant Wix. But here's the kicker, right? That $80 million, it wasn't for some huge company with tons of venture capital. Nope. This was the price for a startup with just one single person, one employee. It was bootstrapped from day one and built completely from scratch in less than a year. Wild. Which, of course, leads to the big question we're all thinking and the one we're going to unpack here. How on earth is that even possible? Okay, so the first thing you need to understand is that this whole thing, it wasn't some happy accident, not at all. It was a very, very deliberate choice and one that was shaped by years of experience. You see, the founder, Mahor Shlomo, he wasn't new to this game. His last company, Explorium, was your classic VC-backed enterprise startup. You know the drill: big teams, huge funding rounds, and all the constant pressure that comes with that. So for his new venture, Base44, which is this really cool platform that lets you build AI-powered apps with just simple instructions, he decided to go down a completely different path.
And this really shows you the two paths he was weighing. On one hand, you've got the VC path. He called it always catching up. You're just running from board meetings to hiring pressures to hitting those quarterly targets. But on the other side, there's the bootstrap path he chose for Base44. That was all about building a stable base, having a laser focus on the product, total creative freedom, and, a sense of calm.
And I mean, he said it perfectly himself. He said bootstrapping, and I'm quoting here, gave me enough time to create a significant base. It helps to build a foundation that is much, much, much stronger later on. And trust me, as we're about to see, that foundation, it was absolutely everything. Okay, so that was the why. He chose the path. But what about the how? How did he actually execute? Let's dive in and break down the Base44 playbook to see how this lean growth engine was really built. It really comes down to 5 core habits, and he was obsessive about them. First up, prove people will actually pay before you even think about marketing. Second, automate everything. If a process can be repeated, automate it. Third, talk to your users like they're humans, not just leads in a sales funnel. Fourth, test a bunch of different channels, but only put your money and time into the ones that are super efficient. And finally, and this one is so crucial, make retention your growth engine, your main one. Now, let's just double click on that automation point for a second, because the impact here is, well, it's staggering. This number really shows you the kind of lift a solo founder can get. So get this. Companies that use marketing automation generate, on average, 451% more qualified leads. Now, for a solo founder, that's not just helpful, it's a total game changer. It's a force multiplier. It literally allowed one person to do the work of a whole team. I'm talking running everything from onboarding emails to billing, all without lifting a finger. Okay, now let's talk about retention. This right here is a super important metric called net revenue retention, or NRR. Base44 hit 127%. Now, what does that mean? It means that even if they didn't get a single new customer, their revenue would still grow by 27% every year, just from their existing users. That is so far above the industry median of 102%. And for an acquirer like Wix, that's a giant flashing sign that says this product is incredibly sticky. So you might be asking, how did he get all these users with no marketing budget? Well, the answer is radical transparency and just being authentic. He was building in public on LinkedIn, sharing both the wins and the failures. He sent out weekly build log emails that even pointed out bugs. The roadmap for the product? It was basically written by customer feedback. See, he didn't just build a product, he built a community, and that community became a sales team. All right, so we've seen the why and the how, the choice and the method. Now let's look at the proof. And I'm telling you, this is where the timeline just gets kind of crazy.
Just look at this journey. Base44 starts as a solo project in early 2024. A mere 3 weeks later, it hits $1 million in annual recurring revenue. Then by the end of 2024, not even a full year after it began, it gets acquired by Wix for that $80 million price tag. I mean, the speed, the velocity here is just completely off the charts.
But let's be real, this kind of hypergrowth isn't all glamorous. It's intense. There's this story that at one point, right in the middle of this rocket ship ride, the entire server crashed while Major was at his brother's wedding. It's just a little story, but man, it perfectly captures that relentless 24/7 pressure you're under as a solo founder on a ride like this. But this story is bigger than just one founder's incredible success. The Base44 acquisition is actually a signal. It points to a massive shift happening in the entire software industry. So let's zoom out and look at the big picture for a second. When Wix announced the acquisition, they used this really interesting term, vibe coding. So what on earth is that? Well, it's a totally new way of thinking about building software. It's a shift away from manual coding to being intent-driven. A good way to think about it is, it's like describing a painting you want to an artist, instead of having to paint it yourself. You just say what you want to build, using plain English, and smart AI agents go and handle all the complicated stuff in the background. And that is exactly why Base44 was so valuable. Its success is the proof in the pudding for this whole new idea. It proves that one person, even someone who isn't a traditional coder, can now build something complex, something that can scale, and something that's incredibly valuable. Which really brings us to the final thought here. Base44, it's just the beginning of this trend, and it leaves all of us with one really powerful question to think about for the future. When you can build amazing software just by describing it, what will you create?